morning and welcome to the Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina Community Prevention Action Plan Community Café 101 webinar. My name is Taylor McDonald and I am a Partnership Engagement Manager at Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina. I will be leading you through this webinar today. We are grateful to have you on board. But before we get started, I would like to let you know that you have 4 handouts attached to this webinar currently that you can access at any point during the webinar. I will be going over a few of the handouts, and I'll also be sending you each of the handouts in a follow-up email, along with the recording of this webinar and the PowerPoint upon conclusion. During this webinar, you can type your questions in the questions box on the right side of your screen. Hold on one moment. All right, thank you. My colleague just informed me that you couldn't see my PowerPoint, so hopefully the beautiful Pinwhirl PowerPoint is up there now. If you look in your handout section, you will see that you have access to the following handouts. The Alliance Community Café Guide, which I will go over with you briefly during this presentation. The PCANC Community Café Questions List. These are just some ideas pertaining to questions we have used at community cafes in the past, but you can tailor them as you please. The Community Café checklist and the CPAP Dropbox link on a document where you can access all of our previously shared CPAP documents, including your CPAP toolkit that will be referenced throughout this webinar. So let's get started. So what will you learn from this webinar today? By the end of this webinar, you will have knowledge about the following: what a community cafe is, what is expected of your CPAP community regarding community cafes, steps to making a community cafe successful, and we will have time at the end for questions. And again, please enter your questions in the questions box on the right side of your screen. Hosting a community cafe is part of an appreciative inquiry process, and there are 4 main steps to hosting a successful community cafe. So before you set up a community cafe, we urge you to think about the following. What is your overall vision for strengthening families, children, and parents in your community as part of your CPAP work? What changes would you like to see happen in your community? What do you want to learn or need to know? So what is your overall call to action? And throughout this process, we work towards hosting a cafe conversation that commits to action as a result of the conversation. So after your cafe, revisit this process again. CPAP communities are encouraged to adopt cafes as a part of their community prevention action plan. So why should we bring our CPAP communities together to host a community cafe? Well, community cafes catalyze action around a specific issue or issues that you see families and children facing in the communities that we serve. In the past, we have had cafes in a multitude of settings, such as faith-based organizations, schools, and community centers. Many communities, whether urban or rural, face similar issues such as homelessness, lack of transportation, and access to resources. So we urge you to think of an issue that hits close to home for you and the community and families that you work with. And that will help you catalyze action around an issue that you find important, such as child abuse and neglect and reducing it in your community. Hosting a community cafe gives your community an opportunity to come together to break down silos. Different sectors, community members, parents, and leaders can come to the table to discuss how they feel about issues that are occurring in their community and what they can do to work towards solving the issue, making it better, and connecting individuals to resources. There is so much great work being done, and when we come together, we can learn from one another and work with one another. Community cafes give the community an opportunity to share their opinions and concerns in a relaxed, safe, and non-judgmental environment. And we know how important that is, especially in the work we do, working with the children and families in our communities. Community cafes are also a great way to engage parents and bring them to the table so that they can be a part of this conversation and feel heard, because we know that their voices matter so very much. So it's vital that they are at the table. Community cafes give us a chance to ask parents for their thoughts, and it's an evening out or a lunch date for social connections to occur, which we all know is a vital protective factor. Community cafes also promote parent partnership, and it's a crucial way that we can value parent thoughts and time. So what exactly happens at a community cafe? A community cafe is typically 2 to 3 hours long, and there are usually about 2 to 4 questions discussed during this time. Sometimes we couple a community cafe with a resilience screening, and you can also couple a community cafe with a panel discussion as well, whatever fits the needs of your community at the time. Participants will share a meal at the beginning of their community cafe, and once everyone has eaten, questions for the cafe begin. I'm going to go over some sample questions with you all, and these questions have been shared as a handout in this webinar. These are some question ideas that we have used in the past here at PCANC, but as I said before, you're more than welcome to tailor these questions to your community cafes and work with your PCANC point of contact to make these questions work for you. So hang tight with me real quickly as I pull up the questions. Alrighty, so these are some potential questions for a community cafe that have been shared with you. I believe there's 35. Yep, 35 here. I went ahead and highlighted a few of my favorites, but like I said, these can be tailored, so I'm just going to read through those quickly. One of the questions that you could ask is, what does or did parental knowledge of child development and parenting skills look like in your own family? And if you are or were a parent, who supported your positive parenting? What would our community look like if there were no domestic violence, sexual assault, or child abuse? What would this community look like if all people were committed to partnering together, such as agencies, organizations, churches, individuals, etc.? And a question like that is also really good when you want to talk about resources in the community and connecting with one another and connecting the children and families you serve to the different resources. What are some possible barriers that keep parents from asking for help? Some stigmas that we might run into, lack of transportation, finances, etc. And what are some ways that we can educate our community on the harms of child abuse and neglect? So these are all just ideas about what you can talk through at your tables during your community cafe and your harvest session, which we will get to at a later time during this webinar. At the very bottom, I have put my contact information and my colleague Nadia, who is our other partnership engagement manager, her information at the bottom as well. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions about community cafes and putting questions together for your cafe. Okay, back to the webinar. All right. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about a table host. So a table host facilitates conversation at your table and takes notes. Each table at your community cafe will have at least one table host, and we recommend that you have 8 to 10 volunteers at your community cafe, depending on the size. There must be one table host at each table that takes notes when everyone is discussing the question. The table host does not have to move tables, but after a set amount of time, participants move to a different table with a different group of people and then begin discussing the next question. So this really allows for people to make connections throughout the entire community cafe and not just sit at the same table with the same people the entire time. Once all of the questions have been discussed, a harvest is collected with all of the information taken by the table host. We will get into detail about what a harvest consists of on the next slide. But after the harvest is collected and key themes are discussed, there is time for group discussion, reflection, and connection. Next steps consist of follow-up with your community cafe point of contact to discuss how the community cafe has affected their work in a positive way and what the community can continue to do as they continue their call to action as a part of their community cafe. So cafe conversations are really intended to spark leadership to develop the relationships necessary to strengthen families in our community. That is what we all do on a daily basis by providing those protective factors to the children and families that we serve. We're helping to strengthen the families in our community as well as ourselves. So this is just a really great way for people to connect with one another because, as we know, connections matter. So next, I'm going to get a little bit into what the harvest process looks like. This is a visual example of the harvesting process that we complete towards the end of every community cafe. So after the questions are finished being discussed by the table hosts and participants, 2 to 3 individuals go behind the scenes to go over the notes taken by the table hosts. The individuals code the notes, pulling out themes that are related to the questions that are being discussed. And the individuals write the themes down and bring the themes back out in front of the participants to discuss themes that were brought up and repeated during the harvest session. This process is called harvest sharing. So this is what everyone will do after they're done discussing their questions and after everything's being coded. A PCANC member or somebody from the community cafe will come out and discuss the harvest session with all of you. So it is very important to note that while the coding individuals are pulling out themes from the harvest, during this time, the participants can either be taking a break, making connections with other individuals in the room, or participating in a raffle. We have done raffles in the past. We've had donated. Sometimes PCANC does have the funding. That's just dependent on funding availability. We've raffled off books before, children's books, ACEs-related books, trauma-informed books, and just some really great parenting materials as well. Next, this is one of my favorite parts of a community cafe, table notes and doodles. So why exactly do we have table notes? Oops, sorry about that, technological difficulties. Why exactly do we have table notes and allow participants to doodle? So doodling and having table notes provided to the participants is a really great opportunity for them to write down any thoughts or feelings that may come to them during the cafe. And this brings together a sense of creativity and connection with the individuals at the table, which is really crucial in providing that safe, stable environment of the community cafe. So community cafes are a safe space for expression of ideas, quotes, drawings, and thoughts. So these are some real photos that were taken from a community cafe that our policy director, Malia Rose Waters, has done in the past. And you see here that people have been writing down quotes from the resilience documentary, if they've coupled their community cafe with the resilience documentary. And one of the best quotes that we hear Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris say in resilience is, it's not what happened, it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened. You see ways to help, information about ACEs. So it's just really cool to get those photos in real time. So what exactly does the community cafe planning process do? This information is found on page 23 of your CPAP toolkit that is included as a handout document for you through a Dropbox link. And I also will be sending it in a follow-up email. So regarding planning, it's really important that at the very beginning of your planning process, you define what the overall purpose of the cafe is and what you want the outcome of your cafe to be. So this really just depends on your county, the location of where you're having your community cafe, and who you're partnering with to make your community cafe happen. And nobody knows your county and your community better than you. So finding the purpose and the call to action and what you want the overall outcome to be is really crucial. And your PCANC point of contact can also connect with you to talk through this with you and give you some ideas, and you guys can brainstorm together. Also part of the planning process, you have to think about who exactly do you want to attend. We suggest that a minimum of 15 attendees are registered, just so that makes for a wealth of knowledge and more individuals there to share connections with each other and discuss the questions and to switch tables throughout the process. It's really important that you find a hosting organization to host your community cafe consisting of a location and set up invitations and manage RSVPs. In the past, some of the organizations and counties that we've worked with who have put on community cafes have managed their RSVPs and invitations through Eventbrite. I know many of us have Eventbrite accounts. It's free, it's easy, and especially when we're living in the digital world. So that's just a really quick, easy way to get people to sign up. Ordering food. So when we order food at in community cafes, we make sure that it's no more than $10 per person. And depending on funding, PCANC can provide this food for you. So if you're using a caterer, we ask that if they provide napkins, plates, utensils, etc. I know it sounds silly, but these are just things we really want to be cognizant about because we forgot to ask in the past. So it's really important that we make sure that we're set to go, because oftentimes we're just really excited about the yummy food and we forget about the utensils and plates and everything of that nature. It's also really important to determine needs for AV equipment, especially if we're showing a documentary, the resilience documentary, or coupling the community cafe with a panel discussion. So having a projector screen, microphone, internet access, computer and speakers, tables and chairs, all of that stuff is really crucial to make for a comfortable environment for an easy flow. And at PCANC, we do have a projector, we have microphones, and we have computers and speakers that we can bring with us to make this process run smooth for you if you do not have access to that at your community cafe location. It's also vital that you determine the questions for the cafe, and you can use the PCANC cafe question list for ideas that we went over earlier. And last but not least, but in my opinion, this is the very first thing that you should do, is prepare a well thought out agenda for your cafe. When we have agendas, it just makes everything go a lot smoother. We kind of know the time frame for everything, how long we're going to focus on each question, how long we're going to eat, and especially if we're coupling it with a resilience screening or a panel discussion, it's really important for us to be on time, not only for the individuals hosting the community cafe, but also for us here at PCANC, because we're going to be there to help you every step of the way and connect with you. So we just want to make sure we are on time and able to provide you with the best technical assistance possible through following that agenda. So what will PCANC provide in relation to your community cafe? So as part of your Community Prevention Action Plan Technical Assistance Package, which can be found on page 6 of your CPAP Toolkit, PCANC will provide consultation on planning your community cafe, the overall facilitation of your cafe, materials to conduct your cafe, depending on budget limits, and funding to provide food for the cafe, depending on budget limits. And then again, when we do provide food, it's $10 per head. This photo that you see here is from a Robeson County cafe that we've done in the past. Our policy director, Malia Rose Waters, had put this cafe together. And this is kind of how we set up our cafes. We make it a really homey, comfortable environment. You see that this cafe was coupled with a resilience screening. We set up the chairs, we set up the tables, and we provide them with PCANC handouts, and we really make it a great environment for people to connect with one another, doodle, and express their creative. Now I'm going to go over some details about what PCANC provides as a part of your community cafe. This slide goes into a little bit more detail, and it can be found on page 23 of your CPAP toolkit as well. So we will provide you with this current webinar here. It's going to be recorded and available for you to share with your entire committee or anyone that you please regarding who would be interested in doing a community cafe. Tablecloth, plastic or cloth, so find out if they need a round tablecloth or a rectangle depending on table shape. Easel paper for tables so that the individuals can doodle. Table decorations, so we do have fake flowers and vases, but we will consider other items if the host would prefer something else. We've done fresh flowers in the past, so it kind of just depends on what you would prefer and what we have funding for as well. Flip chart paper for the harvest session. Markers and pens. Incentives, usually books and raffle tickets. We have plenty of raffle tickets we can provide. Other thank you items. So in the past, PCANC has provided pens, thank you cookies, thank you bags of tea, and things of that nature to kind of give everybody a thank you for coming and talking about your community and connecting with everyone here. One of my favorite things that we've done in the past is give out thank you cookies, but we put them in a CD package. So the big chocolate chip cookie looked like a CD, and we had a big thank you sticker on it. So people thought we were handing them CDs, but really we were handing them cookies, which in my opinion are better than CDs. Again, napkins, plates, utensils as needed. Prevent Child Abuse also will provide the notebooks for your table hosts to record the discussions. We do ask that we have to get this returned to us at the end, and handouts as appropriate. So we will always, always, always provide our Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina Protective Factors handouts. And we're also more than welcome to provide other handouts as well if you have anything that you would like us to print. And overall payment for the food and paper. So I will point out again that it's important to note that the community cafe planning is based on funding limits. So if you're interested in a community cafe as your CPAP work, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself, Nadia, or Suzanne, your point of contact for your county, and we will get something in the works for you. We're really excited about it. Community cafes are truly my favorite. So next, we're going to talk about some important information to note about community cafes. And this information can also be found on page 23 of your CPAP toolkit. So just kind of going over housekeeping and everything that we want to make sure we have organized. Arrive early enough to have ample time to set up. So at least 1.5 to 2 hours before the event. And PCANC will be there with you to help you set up. Have table hosts and facilitators assigned to each table and trained in advance on the flow of the cafe. So anyone that you're enlisting as a table host or a volunteer or facilitator, I would definitely meet with them beforehand. You can have them connect with your PCANC point of contact, kind of go over the flow of what a cafe is, and I'll get into that in a moment with our Alliance Cafe Guide. Make arrangements for leftover food to go to a local organization such as a homeless shelter. Have a sign-in sheet available and collect the sign-in sheet at the event, or ask the host to scan in and send to PCANC after the event, so we have a head count and list of attendees. For the hosting organization, it's important that you follow up with attendees with key themes found from the cafe feedback, which we will discuss with everyone and give you all of the documents needed. Follow up with the attendees with a survey that PCANC provides. Report out on findings to the CPAP group with recommendations for the plan, and provide written report of feedback and recommendations to PCANC. We definitely love and appreciate all feedback given to us so that we're able to better our community cafe process and make everything run smoothly for you all. So I'm going to quickly go over the Alliance Cafe Guide with you. It's attached to your webinar as a handout, and I also will be sending this out to you as well. This is a cafe guide for hosts, and it's very helpful and gives you a well-rounded idea of how to really host a community cafe. And this resource is from the National Alliance of Children's Trust and Prevention Funds. So hang tight with me as I pull it up for you quickly. All right, so this is about a 20-page document here that when you have time, I urge you to read over with your committee when you're interested in hosting a community cafe, and your PCANC point of contact can go through this with you as well. So the Community Cafe Guide for Hosts changes the lives of children through conversations that matter. And when you scroll down, I'm not going to go through everything with you guys, but there is a table of contents talking about how to use this guide, 7 steps to hosting a successful community cafe, planning team discussion guide, talks a lot about the strengthening families' protective factors, which we incorporate in all of the work that we do, sample invitations, and just some ideas of how people have done it in the past. So definitely take the time to look through that. Now back to the PowerPoint here. Oop, I'm sorry. All righty. So an example of a community cafe. This is an example of a community cafe, the same one that we looked at earlier at Robeson County during a past child abuse prevention month. So you see here that they coupled their community cafe with a resilience screening, which is pretty cool. And during the resilience screening is when they eat and make those connections together. In the past, PCANC has had community cafes coupled with panel discussions as well. And so there has been a panel of 4 to 5 individuals openly discussing the questions from the community cafe, and the PCANC representative usually is the one that facilitates this. So if you need any technical assistance regarding microphones, speakers, everything of that nature, we've got that for you. So having a panel discussion allows participants to hear the panelists' viewpoint, promote questions, feedback, and rich discussion at the table as well. So that is our overall kind of look about what community cafes are and what everything in a community cafe consists of. So what is the next step and what is expected of your CPAP communities when hosting a community cafe? Well, definitely please reach out to your Prevent Child Abuse point of contact. Now we're going to take some time for questions. If you are interested in hosting a community cafe, I know many of you have already hosted amazing community cafes in the past as part of your prevention planning work. We are here to help and support you through this process. I'm Taylor and I oversee the child abuse prevention planning in Onslow in Transylvania. Our partnership engagement manager, Nadia, oversees the work in Pitt, and our amazing boss, Suzanne Metcalf, oversees the work being done in Clay and Cumberland. So definitely reach out to us and we can get these community cafes planned for you. So we're really excited. And I'm gonna go over to Nadia to see if I have any questions. No questions? All right, let's give them a couple of minutes. Hopefully y'all could hear me too. We didn't get any feedback that I was going in and out, so I think we fixed our microphone problem. All right. Well, if there aren't any, oh, there's a question. Yay. What's the question? Oh, great. Okay, so it looks like we have a question from Wanda. We think it's something along the lines of, is childcare provided for parents? And Wanda, that is a great question. We can, we've made that happen in the past and we can work to make that happen again. I know we did a community cafe with Safe Child a while back at a church, and they had free childcare at that church. And so they had volunteers come and provide childcare for the children. And Chick-fil-A was provided to the children while Moe's was provided to the adults. So it really gave parents a great time to spend time together with their spouse, come to the community cafe, have a wonderful dinner, and then their kids were safe in the other room and they had Chick-fil-A as well. So yes, to answer your question, that has happened in the past, and that's definitely something that you can look into with your PCANC point of contact, and we can do our best to make that a possibility for you, because I think it's a really important issue that we can work towards solving. Any more questions? All right, it looks like that was our only question. If anybody has questions for Nadia, Suzanne, or myself, please definitely feel free to reach out to us. We are looking forward to continuing this work with all of you, and we're grateful to be partnering with all of you in this work. So thank you so much for listening to me today. It was a good time, and we look forward to connecting with you guys again soon. Take care.